I never imagined that one mistaken text would unravel everything I'd carefully built over the past 3 years. Sitting on my worn couch with my phone clutched in trembling hands, I felt the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me like never before. My 4-year-old son, Kim, lay curled beside me, his small face flushed with fever, his breathing shallow and uneven. I'd been awake for nearly 36 hours straight, watching over him, applying cold compresses, and praying the fever would break on its own because I couldn't afford another hospital visit this month. The rent was already 2 weeks late. My part-time job at the bookstore barely covered groceries, and I'd been stretching every dollar until it screamed. Kim deserved better than this, better than second-hand clothes, better than me rationing his medicine, better than living in this cramped apartment where the heating barely worked in winter. But we'd made it work somehow. Just the two of us against the world. I pulled up my messages, intending to text my best friend Mira. She'd helped me through so many rough patches before, always lending me money without judgments, always showing up when I needed someone. My vision blurred with tears as I typed out the message, my fingers shaking so badly I could barely hit the right keys. Kim's fever won't break. I can't afford the hospital bills. What should I do? I hit send without double-checking the recipient. The moment the message delivered, my stomach dropped. The name at the top of the screen made my blood run cold. Cayson Hale. Not Mira. Cayson. The phone slipped from my hands like it had suddenly turned to fire, clattering onto the carpet. I stared at it in horror, my heart hammering so violently I thought I might pass out. This couldn't be happening. Out of everyone in my contact list, why did it have to go to him? Cayson Hale, the alpha who'd shattered my world 3 years ago. The man who told me I wasn't strong enough, that my omega nature made me too fragile, too dependent, too much of a liability for someone of his status. He'd walked away when I needed him most, leaving me pregnant and alone, convinced I'd never see him again. And I'd been fine with that. I'd built a life without him, raised our son without his knowledge, and told myself we were better off. But now he knew. Now he'd seen the message. Now everything would change. Papa, are you okay? Kim's small voice cut through my panic. He was looking at me with those gray-blue eyes, the exact same shade as his father's, filled with concern that no 4-year-old should have to feel. I forced a smile, though my face felt like it might crack. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just dropped my phone. Before I could pick it up, it buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. My hands shook as I reached for it, dreading what I'd find. 3 messages from Cayson, each one more demanding than the last. Kim? Who is Kim? Is he your son? Send me your address. Now. I'm coming. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. This was my worst nightmare materializing in real time. Cayson would put the pieces together. Kim's age, the timeline, those unmistakable gray-blue eyes. He'd know immediately. And then what? Would he try to take Kim from me? Would he use his wealth and power to prove I was an unfit parent? I'd fought too hard to let that happen. I scrambled to my feet, pacing the small living room while Kim watched me with growing worry. Maybe I could ignore him. Maybe I could block his number, pack up, and disappear before he found us. I'd done it once before. I could do it again. But even as the thought crossed my mind, I knew it was futile. Cayson Hale was one of the most powerful alphas in the city, CEO of a massive corporate empire. If he wanted to find me, he would. Money and influence could unlock any door, uncover any secret. A sharp knock on the door made me jump. Not a polite knock, a hard, commanding sound that echoed through the apartment like a gunshot. Brad, open the door. My legs nearly gave out. That voice. Deep, authoritative, laced with alpha dominance that sent shivers down my spine, despite everything. How was he here already? My apartment was across town from his corporate tower. Had he been nearby? Had he dropped everything and rushed over the moment he'd received my message? Brad. His voice came again, slightly softer but no less intense. I know you're in there. I can sense you. Open the door before I break it down. Kim grabbed my leg, his small fingers digging into the fabric of my jeans. Papa, who is that? Why is he so angry? I knelt down, pulling my son close, trying to shield him from whatever storm was about to break. It's nobody, baby. Just an old friend. But he wasn't a friend. He was the ghost I'd been running from, the mistake I'd tried to bury, the one person who could destroy the fragile peace I'd built. The knocking came again, more insistent. I'm not leaving, Brad. We need to talk. About Kim. About everything. I closed my eyes, knowing I had no choice. Running would only make things worse. With trembling hands, I unlocked the deadbolt and slowly opened the door, keeping the chain latch engaged so it would only open a few inches. And there he was. Cayson Hale stood in the hallway, looking every bit the powerful alpha I remembered. He'd somehow grown more imposing over the years, taller, broader, more commanding. His dark gray suit was impeccably tailored, his presence filling the entire doorway. But it was his eyes that held me frozen. Those gray-blue eyes that I'd once loved, that I'd seen reflected in my son's face every single day, were now boring into me with an intensity that made my omega instincts scream. His scent hit me through the gap in the door, cedarwood and morning rain, mixed with that undeniable alpha musk that used to make me feel safe. Now it just made me feel trapped. Brad. He said my name like a statement of fact, like a claim being staked. We need to talk. I tried to keep my voice steady, but it came out shaky and weak. There's nothing to talk about. Don't lie to me. His hand pressed against the door, not pushing but making his presence known. Kim, your son, how old is he? I swallowed hard. That's none of your concern. 4 years old? His voice dropped lower. Dangerous. He's 4, isn't? The silence that followed was suffocating. I could see the calculations happening behind his eyes, the timeline clicking into place. 4 years ago we'd been together. 4 years ago I'd gotten pregnant. 4 years ago he'd left. Let me in, Brad. Let me see him. No. That's my son in there. It wasn't a question anymore. I have a right. You have no rights. The words burst out of me, 3 years of pain and anger erupting. You walked away. You said I was too weak, too fragile, that you couldn't be with an omega who needed too much. You made your choice, Cayson. You don't get to show up now and demand anything. For a moment he just stared at me. Then, without warning, he pushed, not violently but with enough alpha strength that the chain latch snapped like paper. The door swung open and suddenly he was inside my apartment, filling the space with his overwhelming presence. And behind me I heard Kim's small voice, frightened and confused. Papa? Who is he? Cayson's eyes locked onto my son and I watched his entire world shift in that single moment. The apartment felt smaller with Cayson inside it. He dominated the space completely, his 6'3" frame making my modest living room look like a dollhouse. I positioned myself between him and Kim instinctively, every omega protective instinct screaming at me to keep my child safe from this alpha who'd abandoned us once before. But Cayson wasn't looking at me anymore. His entire focus had zeroed in on Kim, who peeked out from behind my legs with a mixture of curiosity and fear. I watched Cayson's expression transform, shock giving way to recognition, then something deeper and more complex I couldn't quite identify. Wonder, maybe, or regret. The resemblance was undeniable. Kim had inherited his father's gray-blue eyes, the same shade that shifted between steel and storm depending on the light. His dark hair fell in the same naturally tousled waves, even the shape of his face, the set of his jaw. It was like looking at a miniature version of the man standing before us. He looks exactly like me, Cayson whispered, his voice rough with emotion. I'd never heard from him before. Why didn't you? Don't. I cut him off sharply. Don't you dare ask me why I didn't tell you. You know exactly why. His jaw clenched, muscles working beneath his skin. That was different. I made a mistake. A mistake? I laughed bitterly. You told me I was a burden. You said being with me was exhausting, that you needed an omega who could stand on their own. Well, congratulations, Cayson. I did exactly that. I stood on my own and raised our son without you. Kim tugged on my shirt. Papa, I don't understand. Who is this person? I knelt down to Kim's level, trying to keep my voice calm despite the chaos exploding inside me. This is someone I used to know, sweetheart. Before you were born. Someone you used to know? Cayson's voice had an edge now. Is that what you're calling the father of your child? I stood back up, fury coursing through me. You lost the right to that title when you walked away. I didn't know. His control was slipping, alpha dominance radiating off him in waves that made my omega instincts want to submit, want to soothe, Want to yield? I fought against it with everything I had. If you'd told me you were pregnant, you would have what? Stayed out of obligation? Resented us both? I wasn't going to trap you, Cayson. You made your feelings about me perfectly clear. He took a step forward, and I instinctively took one back, keeping Kim behind me. Cayson noticed the defensive movement and stopped, something like pain flashing across his features. I was scared, he admitted, his voice dropping. I was terrified of what I felt for you. The intensity of it, my alpha instincts around you were overwhelming. And I convinced myself it was unhealthy. That I needed to walk away before I became too possessive, too controlling. I thought I was protecting you. Well, you protected me right into single parenthood and poverty. I shot back. So thanks for that. Cayson's eyes swept across the apartment, taking in the worn furniture, the peeling paint, the space heater in the corner because the building's heating was unreliable. His expression darkened with each detail he absorbed. You've been living like this? Raising my son in these conditions? Rage flooded through me. How dare you judge me? I've done the best I could with what I had. Kim is loved. He's cared for. He's sick, Cayson interrupted, his gaze moving back to Kim's flushed face. That message you sent, you can't afford to take him to the hospital. I felt my cheeks burn with shame and defiance. We manage. This isn't managing, Brad. This is barely surviving. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling my personal physician. He'll be here in 20 minutes. We don't need your help. Yes, you do. His voice rose, filling the apartment with alpha authority that made Kim whimper behind me. Cayson immediately reined himself in, his expression softening as he looked at our son. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. He crouched down slowly, making himself less imposing, and extended his hand toward Kim. Hey there, my name is Cayson. What's your name? Kim looked up at me, seeking permission. I wanted to refuse, wanted to push Cayson out the door and pretend this had never happened. But Kim deserved to know his father, didn't he? Even if that father had broken my heart. I nodded slightly and Kim stepped out from behind me just a little. Kim, he said quietly. Kim, Cayson repeated, his smile genuine. That's a strong name. Tell me, Kim, do you like superheroes? Kim's eyes lit up despite his fever. I love Spider-Man. Really? He's my favorite too. Maybe sometime I could show you my comic book collection. Would you like that? Before Kim could answer, I stepped in. Cayson, what are you doing? He stood up, his expression serious. I'm getting to know my son, and then we're gonna talk about the future. The future? My heart rate spiked. What future? The one where you and Kim move in with me. Where I provide for you both. Where I actually get to be a father instead of a stranger my son is afraid of. The words hit me like a physical blow. Absolutely not. We're not moving anywhere. Brad, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You can't just show up after 3 years and expect us to upend our entire lives because you suddenly feel paternal. Look around you. Cayson's frustration was mounting. You're struggling to pay for basic necessities. Your son is sick and you can't afford treatment. I have the resources to give him everything he needs, everything he deserves. We don't need your money. Maybe not, but he needs his father. Cayson's voice softened. And whether you want to admit it or not, you need someone to support you too. You're exhausted, Brad. I can see it. How long have you been running on empty? Too long, a treacherous part of my mind whispered. Forever. I have a guest room that can be Kim's. Cayson continued, his tone becoming more measured, more strategic. A full-time nanny if you want one. Access to the best schools in the city. Medical care whenever he needs it. And before you say no, he held up his hand to stop my protest. Think about what's best for him, not what your pride tells you. I hated that he was making sense. Hated that part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to accept the help I desperately needed, but was too stubborn to ask for. This isn't about pride, I said, but even I could hear how weak it sounded. This is about protecting my son from someone who abandoned us once and could do it again. I'm not going anywhere this time. Cayson's eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. You kept my son from me for 3 years. I won't let either of you go now that I know he exists. One way or another, Brad. We're going to be a family. You can make this easy and come willingly, or you can fight me and I'll use every resource at my disposal to prove I can provide a better life for Kim. Your choice. The threat was clear. wrapped in honeyed words but a threat nonetheless. And the terrifying part, he had the power to follow through. The penthouse was obscene in its opulence. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, the lights twinkling like trapped stars. Everything was pristine. White marble floors that reflected like mirrors, modern furniture that probably cost more than my annual rent, and artwork on the walls that I recognized from magazine spreads about wealthy collectors. This wasn't just wealth, this was the kind of generational money that built empires. Kim was in heaven. He ran from room to room, his fever temporarily forgotten in his excitement, touching everything with wonder-filled hands. "Papa! There's a whole room just for watching movies. And the bathtub is bigger than our whole bathroom." His joy should have made me happy. Instead, it filled me with a crushing sense of inadequacy. I'd given him everything I could, but it would never compare to this. How could I compete with a father who could offer literal kingdoms? Cayson appeared behind me, silent as always. His presence made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Part fear, part something I refused to acknowledge. "The master bedroom is this way," he said, gesturing down a hallway. I followed reluctantly, my stomach in knots. He led me to a massive room, dominated by a king-sized bed with a view that probably cost extra millions. Everything was decorated in shades of gray and navy, masculine and sophisticated. "This is your room," I said, confused. "Where am I sleeping?" "Here." His answer was simple, matter-of-fact. I spun to face him. "Excuse me? You're my mate, Brad. Broken bond or not, the connection between us still exists. Your scent still affects me, still calls to my alpha instincts. And now that my son is under this roof, I need to know you're both safe. That means you stay where I can protect you." "This is insane." "Is it?" He stepped closer and I forced myself not to retreat. "We created a child together. We had a bond strong enough that breaking it left both of us incomplete. Don't pretend you don't feel it too, that pull between us." I did feel it. That was the problem. Being near him again after 3 years awakened parts of me I'd worked hard to suppress. The omega in me recognized its alpha, wanted to lean into his strength, wanted to trust that he'd provide and protect, but the rational part of me remembered the pain, remembered his rejection, remembered raising Kim alone through sleepless nights and impossible choices. "Feeling a biological pull doesn't mean we should act on it," I said, proud of how steady my voice remained. "I'll take the guest room. Kim can have the other one. We'll stay until he's better and then we're leaving." Cayson's expression hardened. "You're not leaving. You can't keep us prisoner." "I'm not keeping you prisoner. I'm keeping my family together." He moved past me to a dresser, pulling out a t-shirt. "But if you're going to be stubborn about the sleeping arrangements, fine. I'll take the couch. You can have the bed." Before I could protest, he walked out, leaving me standing in his bedroom feeling more confused than ever. The next few days fell into an uncomfortable routine. True to his word, Cayson had his personal physician examine Kim. The doctor diagnosed a respiratory infection that required antibiotics, expensive ones I could never have afforded. Within 48 hours, Kim's fever broke. His color returned. He started eating properly again. And he absolutely adored Cayson. I watched from the sidelines as my son bonded with his father over superhero movies and elaborate breakfasts. Cayson worked from home, taking calls in his office while Kim colored at a small desk. Cayson had ordered specifically for him. They laughed together. Kim started calling him Dad without any prompting from either of us. It should have made me happy. Instead, I felt myself being slowly erased from the picture. One evening, I stood on the penthouse balcony, watching the city below and trying to figure out how my life had spiraled so far out of control. The door opened behind me, and I didn't need to turn around to know it was Cayson. His scent announced him before his footsteps did. "You look like you're planning an escape route," he observed, leaning against the railing beside me. "Would you stop me if I was?" "Absolutely. No hesitation. But I don't think you're planning to run. I think you're trying to figure out how to coexist with me without losing yourself in the process." I glanced at him, surprised by the perception. "You think you know me so well? I know that you're terrified of depending on anyone after what I did to you. I know you've built walls so high you barely let Kim see past them. And I know that accepting my help feels like admitting defeat." He turned to face me fully. But it's not defeat, Brad. It's partnership. It's what we should have had from the beginning. We can't just restart something that ended so badly. Why not? His hand reached out, hovering near my face before dropping. I handled things poorly 3 years ago. I let my fear control me instead of fighting for what we had. But I'm here now. I want to make this work. For Kim, yes. But also for us. There is no us, I said, but the words felt hollow. Isn't there? He stepped closer, and my body betrayed me by not moving away. Your scent changes when I'm near you. Your pupils dilate. Your breathing quickens. The bond we had might be broken, but the foundation is still there waiting to be rebuilt. Physical attraction isn't enough. Then let me prove there's more. His voice dropped to that low, intimate register that used to undo me. Give me a chance to show you I've changed, that I can be the alpha you and Kim deserve. I wanted to say no. Every rational thought in my head screamed to maintain distance, to protect myself from inevitable heartbreak. But standing there on that balcony with the city lights spread below us like offerings, I felt something crack inside my carefully constructed walls. 1 month. I heard myself say, you have 1 month to prove this isn't just about possession or guilt. If at the end of that time I still want to leave, you let us go without a fight. Cayson's smile was slow and devastating. 1 month. I can work with that. He extended his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, I shook it. His grip was warm, firm, and sent electricity racing up my arm. This was either the biggest mistake of my life, or the second chance. Neither of us thought we'd get. Only time would tell which. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting golden stripes across the master bedroom. I woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where I was, until Cayson's scent hit me, that distinctive blend of cedarwood and rain that seemed embedded in every surface of this room. Despite sleeping on opposite sides of the massive bed with what felt like miles between us, his presence had invaded my dreams all night. I found him in the kitchen already dressed for work, looking every inch the corporate titan in his charcoal suit. He was doing something unexpected, attempting to make breakfast. Eggs sizzled in a pan while he frowned at his phone, clearly following some recipe. You cook? The words escaped before I could stop them. He glanced up, a hint of sheepishness crossing his features. Trying to learn. Kim mentioned yesterday that you used to make him shaped pancakes. I thought I'd attempt it, but apparently I need more practice. I moved closer, peering at the pan where something vaguely resembling a deformed star was taking shape. Despite everything, I felt my lips twitch. That's ambitious. It's terrible, he admitted, turning off the heat. I've spent years building a corporate empire but can't master basic breakfast foods. The vulnerability in his admission caught me off guard. This wasn't the confident alpha who'd commandeered my life days ago. This was someone genuinely trying, even if he was failing spectacularly. Here. I reached for the spatula, our fingers brushing. The contact sent electricity up my arm. Let me show you. We stood side by side at the stove and I guided him through the process. His presence behind me was overwhelming, heat radiating from his body, his breath stirring my hair. Every omega instinct I possessed screamed at me to lean back into that strength, to accept the protection and provision he offered. I fought against it, maintaining the thin barrier of space between us. Brad. His voice was soft, hesitant. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to understand something. When I left 3 years ago, it wasn't because you were weak. It was because you made me feel too much. Every time you hurt, I hurt. Every time you needed something, I wanted to tear the world apart to give it to you. That intensity terrified me. I flipped the pancake with more force than necessary. So you ran? Yes. No excuses, no justifications, just honesty. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing, that you'd be better off with someone less consumed by their alpha instincts. But I was wrong. I've regretted it every single day since. Before I could respond, Kim burst into the kitchen, still in his dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. Are those pancakes? Can I help? The moment shattered, but something had shifted between Cayson and me. Some small crack in my armor had appeared. Later that week, Cayson announced he wanted to take Kim to his office. I immediately protested, but he was insistent. He should see where I work, understand what I do. Besides, the board meeting isn't till afternoon. Morning is usually quiet. The Cayson Hale Enterprises building was a monument to success, glass and steel reaching toward the sky like a modern tower. Kim's eyes went wide as we entered the marble lobby, his small hand clutching mine tightly. Employees stopped and stared as we passed, whispers following in our wake. I felt exposed like a specimen under glass. Cayson's office occupied the entire top floor, windows wrapped around 3 walls offering a 360-degree view of the city. Kim immediately ran to the glass, pressing his face against it. "This is where you work every day?" His voice was filled with awe. "Most days," Cayson confirmed, crouching beside him. "See that building there? The red one? I helped design it. And that park? I funded its renovations so kids like you would have a safe place to play." Pride colored his voice, and I realized he was trying to impress our son. The mighty Cayson Hale, CEO worth billions, seeking approval from a 4-year-old. Something about that image softened another piece of my resistance. An assistant brought in coloring books and crayons. Setting Kim up at a small table by the window, Cayson gestured for me to follow him to the private conference room attached to his office. The moment the door closed, the air between us grew charged. "I need to ask you something," he started, and I braced myself. "The bond we had, do you ever think about it? About what we lost?" "Every day," I admitted before I could stop myself. "Breaking a bond isn't clean. It leaves scars that never fully heal. You feel it too, don't you? That sense of something missing?" He nodded slowly, like a phantom limb. "I reach for you in my sleep, even though you haven't been there in years. I smell your scent in places you've never been. My alpha side is constantly searching for its mate. We're not mates anymore, aren't we?" He stepped closer, and I found myself backed against the conference table. "Biology doesn't care about broken bonds or hurt feelings. Your omega recognizes me just as much as my alpha recognizes you. We can deny it all we want, but that doesn't make it less true." My heart hammered against my ribs. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I want to try again. Properly this time. Court you the way I should have from the beginning. Show you that I can be what you need. Not just as Kim's father but as your partner. Cayson, I'm not asking you to bond with me tomorrow. I'm asking for the chance to prove myself. Let me take you on a date. Let me show you who I've become." A date. The concept seemed absurd given our history, given that I was living in his penthouse with our child. Yet part of me, the part that remembered falling for him years ago, wanted to say yes. "One date?" I heard myself agree. "But if you try to use it as leverage or control, I won't." He placed his hand over his heart. "You have my word." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Kim was thrilled with the office, especially when Cayson let him sit in his executive chair and run the company for 5 minutes. Watching them together, seeing Cayson's patience as he explained things in terms a child could understand, seeing Kim's face light up with every bit of attention, I felt the walls I built begin to crumble. That evening, after Kim was asleep, I stood in the living room staring at my reflection in the darkened windows. Cayson appeared beside me, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "For your nerves," he offered. I took the glass, our fingers brushing again. That electric sensation returned, stronger this time. "I'm scared," I admitted quietly. "Scared of trusting you again. Scared of what happens if you leave. Scared that I'm making a mistake by staying." "Those are all valid fears." He didn't try to dismiss them. "I can't promise I'll be perfect. I'll probably mess up and say the wrong thing. But I can promise I'll never abandon you again. Never walk away when things get hard. You and Kim, you're my family, and I protect what's mine." The possessive declaration should have bothered me. Instead, it sent warmth flooding through my chest. Maybe, just maybe, this second chance could work. Maybe we could build something stronger from the ruins of what we'd lost. "Saturday," I said suddenly. "Your date." "Saturday evening." His smile could have lit the entire city. "I'll make it unforgettable." As I headed to bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of something monumental. Something that would either heal us completely or destroy us beyond repair. 3 weeks into our arrangement, I'd almost convinced myself this could work. Kim was thriving. His health had improved dramatically. He'd started at an excellent preschool, and his bond with Cayson grew stronger daily. Cayson himself had been nothing but respectful, giving me space while still making his presence known. Small gestures, Coffee waiting for me each morning. My favorite foods appearing in the refrigerator. A new easel set up in the spare room when he learned I used to paint. Our scheduled date was 2 days away and I found myself actually looking forward to it. That should have been my first warning that things were going too well. I'd taken Kim to a nearby park, one of the few concessions to normalcy I'd insisted on maintaining. Cayson had wanted to send a bodyguard, but I'd refused. I needed these moments of independence, these reminders that I could still function without an alpha hovering over me. Kim was on the swings, laughing as he pumped his legs higher and higher. When my phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Brad? It's really you. The voice froze me in place. Kieran. My ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago, the one who'd promised he could accept my situation before ultimately deciding that dating a single parent was too complicated. The one who'd left when I needed support most. How did you get this number? I demanded, watching Kim carefully to ensure he was still safe. Does it matter? I saw the news coverage you and Cayson Hale at some charity gala last week. You looked good, Brad, really good. Being with a billionaire alpha clearly agrees with you. The bitterness in his tone was unmistakable. What do you want, Kieran? I made a mistake. Walking away from you was the biggest error of my life. I want another chance. I want to prove I can be what you need. A laugh escaped me, harsh and incredulous. You rejected me and my son. You made it clear we weren't worth the effort. Now that I'm with someone successful, suddenly you're interested again. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Don't contact me again. I ended the call, hands shaking with anger and old hurt. But Kieran had never been good at taking no for an answer. Over the next 24 hours, he called 17 more times. I blocked the number, but he used different phones. Text messages flooded in. Apologies mixed with accusations. Declarations of love followed by bitter recriminations about how I'd moved on so quickly. I didn't tell Cayson. Part of me wanted to handle this myself, to prove I didn't need an alpha to fight my battles. The other part worried about how he'd react. His possessive tendencies had been mostly under control, but I sensed a storm lurking beneath his calm exterior. The next afternoon I made the mistake of going to the grocery store alone. I'd sent the driver away, insisting I could manage a simple shopping trip. I was loading bags into the car when Kieran appeared, seeming to materialize from nowhere. Brad, please. Just hear me out. I stepped back, instinctively putting the car between us. You need to leave, now. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. He moved around the car, closing the distance I'd created. I know I hurt you. I know I was a coward. But seeing you with him, it made me realize what I lost. What we could have had. We could never have had anything because you didn't want it. You wanted the idea of me without the reality of my life. His expression hardened. And Cayson wants you? Or does he just want to own you? Keep you locked in his tower like some prize he won? That's none of your concern. I still care about you. He reached for my arm and I jerked away. Is he even good to Kim? Does he actually love your son? Or is he just tolerating him to get you? Don't you dare question his relationship with Kim. Cayson is Kim's father. What? Kieran's eyes widened with shock. That kid is his? You never told me. I didn't owe you my entire history. Just like I don't owe you an explanation now. Leave, Kieran. This is your last warning. Or what? You'll call your alpha to come rescue you. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. Maybe you need to remember what it's like to be with someone who actually chose you first, not someone who abandoned you pregnant and alone. The sentence never finished. One moment Kieran was holding my wrist, the next he was on the ground, Cayson standing over him with murder in his eyes. I hadn't heard him approach. Hadn't sensed him at all until he was there, radiating such intense alpha fury that nearby shoppers hurried away from the confrontation. Touch him again, Cayson said with deadly calm, and I will make you disappear. Not figuratively, not metaphorically. I have the resources to erase you from existence, and I promise you I won't hesitate to use them. Kieran scrambled backward, genuine fear on his face. I was just talking. You were harassing my mate. There's a difference. Cayson's hand found the small of my back, a possessive gesture that sent conflicting emotions through me. You have 10 seconds to get out of my sight before I change my mind about letting you walk away. Kieran fled, practically running to his car. The moment he was gone, Cayson turned to me, his expression transforming from predator to concerned partner. Are you hurt? Did he touch you anywhere else? His hands skimmed over my arms, checking for injuries with a gentleness that contradicted the violence he'd just displayed. I'm fine. How did you know I was here? The security team I hired has been tracking your location since you moved in. I know you value independence, but after today I hope you understand why I take your safety seriously. I should have been angry about the surveillance. Should have protested the invasion of privacy. Instead, I felt only relief that he'd been there when I needed him. That scared me more than anything. He's not going to stop, I said quietly. Kieran doesn't give up easily. Then I'll make sure he has no choice. Cayson pulled me close, and I let myself lean into his strength. I told you before, I protect what's mine. You and Kim are mine, Brad. And I don't share. Standing in that parking lot, wrapped in the arms of an alpha who'd once broken my heart, I realized something terrifying. I was falling for him again. Despite my defenses, despite my fears, despite everything that had happened between us, I wanted this. Wanted him. Wanted the family we could be. And that vulnerability might destroy me if I wasn't careful. The incident with Kieran changed something fundamental between us. Cayson became hyper-vigilant, insisting on accompanying me everywhere. Rather than feeling suffocated, I found comfort in his presence. The security detail he'd mentioned became visible. Trained professionals who blended into the background, but provided peace of mind I hadn't realized I needed. Kim noticed the shift too. Papa Cayson seems worried, he observed one evening at dinner. Did something bad happen? Nothing for you to worry about, sweetheart, I assured him, though Cayson and I exchanged loaded glances over his head. Our date, when it finally happened, exceeded every expectation I'd secretly harbored. Cayson didn't take me to some exclusive restaurant or flashy event. Instead, he arranged for a private dinner on the penthouse terrace, string lights woven through the railing, a table set with simple elegance and a chef preparing our meal in the outdoor kitchen. I wanted somewhere we could talk freely, he explained, pulling out my chair. No prying eyes or listening ears, just us. The food was incredible, but I barely tasted it, too focused on the man across from me, on the way candlelight played across his features, on how his eyes never left mine throughout the meal. Tell me something I don't know about you, I requested between courses. Something real. He considered the question seriously. I'm terrified of failing you again. Every decision I make, every word I speak, I'm constantly analyzing whether it's going to push you away. I wake up some mornings convinced you'll have left with Kim while I slept. His honesty stole my breath. I'm afraid too. Afraid of how easy it's becoming to rely on you. Afraid that I'm setting myself up for another heartbreak. What if we're both afraid together? He reached across the table, palm up an invitation. What if we stop trying to protect ourselves from hurt and just feel what we feel? I placed my hand in his, feeling the rightness of the gesture settle into my bones. That's a terrifying prospect. The best things usually are. After dinner we slow danced to music playing from hidden speakers. His arms around me felt like coming home, like finding a piece of myself I'd thought lost forever. When he kissed me soft and questioning, I kissed him back with 3 years of longing compressed into a single moment. Stay with me, he whispered against my lips. Not because Kim needs stability or because I'm providing financial security. Stay because you want this. Because you want us. I do want it, I admitted, the words feeling like both surrender and victory. I want us, but I need you to understand, if we do this, if we rebuild our bond, I need you to promise you'll never shut me out again. Even when you're scared, even when your instincts tell you to protect me by pushing me away, we face things together or not at all. Together, he agreed immediately. Always together from now on. The next weeks unfolded like a dream. I was afraid to wake from. Cayson had been serious about proving himself. He'd enrolled in therapy to address the fears that had driven him away before. He included me in decisions, asked for my input on everything from Kim's schooling to business ventures. We established routines as a family: breakfast together every morning, bedtime stories for Kim where we took turns doing different voices, weekend outings to museums and parks. The art studio he'd set up for me became my sanctuary. I'd forgotten how much I loved painting, how therapeutic it was to lose myself in color and form. Cayson commissioned several pieces, proudly displaying them throughout the penthouse. Despite my protests that they weren't good enough for such a prominent showcase. They're perfect because you created them, he insisted. Everything you touch becomes extraordinary. Kim flourished in this new life. His health remained stable. His confidence grew, and watching him with Cayson filled a hole in my heart I hadn't realized existed. They had their own relationship now, inside jokes, special handshakes, a bond that existed independent of me. 1 month after our first official date, on a quiet Sunday morning with Kim at a play date with his new preschool friends, Cayson found me on the balcony watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. "I have something for you," he said, producing a small velvet box. My heart stuttered. "Cayson, it's not what you think. Open it." Inside lay a delicate silver bracelet, 3 small charms dangling from the chain, a paintbrush, a small child's handprint, and an alpha symbol intertwined with an omega 1. "It represents us," he explained, fastening it around my wrist. "Your art, our son, and the bond we're building. I know we're not ready for a full bonding ceremony yet, but I wanted you to have something that shows my commitment, my promise that I'm in this completely." Tears pricked my eyes. "It's beautiful. You're beautiful. You and Kim have given me something I didn't know I was missing. Purpose beyond corporate success. Love beyond alpha instincts. Family beyond obligation. I spent 3 years thinking I needed to be alone to be strong. You've taught me that real strength is allowing yourself to need someone." I turned in his arms, rising on tiptoes to kiss him properly. "I love you. I think I never stopped, even when I wanted to. Even when I tried to convince myself you were just Kim's father and nothing more. I love you too, more than I have words to express." His forehead pressed against mine. "Will you bond with me again? Not today, not tomorrow, but when you're ready. Will you let me be your alpha officially?" "Yes," I breathed. "Yes, when I'm ready. And I think I'm almost there." When Kim came home later that day, Cayson sat us both down in the living room. "Kim, I want to ask you something important. How would you feel if Brad and I bonded? If I became your papa officially, legally, in every way?" Kim's face split into the widest smile I'd ever seen. "Does that mean we're a real family forever?" "We're already a real family," I corrected gently. "But yes, it would make things official." "Then I want that." Kim threw his arms around both of us. "I want us to be together always, wrapped in the embrace of my son and the alpha I'd chosen, who'd chosen me back this time, completely and without reservation." I finally understood what home meant. Not a place, not a penthouse, or apartment or building. Home was this. The people who loved you, who fought for you, who stayed even when things got difficult. 3 months later, under stars and city lights with Kim as our witness, Cayson and I renewed our bond. This time, there was no fear, no hesitation. Only love, trust, and the promise of forever.